This, my friends, is an important conversation to tune into. I just finished an hour-long conversation. Yahya is an Israeli, an Arab, and a Muslim, and he's a proud soldier in the IDF. Even though he grew up in a country and he grew up in a neighborhood where he was taught to hate Jews, he was taught to hate Israel, he changed. And he became a lover of Zion and voluntarily enlisted in the IDF. He has spent 50 days serving in the IDF since this war began on October 7th. We had a fascinating conversation on what turned him around, what got him, if you will, to see the light, and how can many other Arabs living in Israel, whether they're Palestinian, Israeli Arabs, be able to embrace Israel and actually fight alongside Israel against evil, against terrorism. This was an incredibly important conversation. We spoke about also his dealings with other Arab countries. He's doing incredible outreach work in the United Arab Emirates, in Saudi Arabia, in trying to tell the story of Israel from an Arab perspective to other Arab people. This is so important that we get behind and we talk to people, individuals like Yahya. There are not so many of them, although we spoke about that as well. How many Arabs are siding with the Jews in this war against Hamas? How many Arabs are actually killed by Hamas and want to see Hamas taken out of commission? We discussed that, and also who should take over when this is all done. Please God, when the IDF wipes out Hamas, who is going to replace, who is going to be governing that neighborhood, the Gazans living there after the IDF, please God, very, very soon is successful in dismantling Hamas? Tune in for all these questions. Welcome to the Wildescast, everyone. Welcome, Yahya. I'm with Yahya Mahamid. Is that okay? Pronunciation? Not bad?
Wonderful.
Okay. So Yahya is Israeli. He is Arab. He is Muslim. He is a proud soldier in the IDF. Grew up in Israel. And it's such a pleasure and honor to have you with us. Thank you so much for coming on. First of all, just tell us how you're doing. How are you been doing since October 7th?
Thank you for having me. I'm very honored. October 7th was a big surprise. I woke up at 6:30 a.m. To the sirens, the rocket sirens. Obviously, like everybody in Israel, I didn't know what was going on. I immediately took it to the news to see what was going on. There was no escalation prior to October 7th. There was a ceasefire on October 6th, as they say, so there was no reason for this to happen. And I was surprised, like everybody else, taken aback, and I did not believe the pictures and the videos that were circling online. I thought it's an edited footage, sort of like a psych game, a psych warfare that was going on.
Sure.
But unfortunately, it was confirmed a few hours later, and I could hear the gunfire around my city. There was a whole battle around my city, and it continued. That situation continued for a few hours. I immediately got in touch with my commanders in the IDF, and I started doing what I can. I got a group of Israeli Arab activists to join in and join the efforts. We have done some interesting projects since then.
But you were in the south when this took place, where you live?
Yes, I live in the southern part of Israel. My city, like many other cities, were affected. There was a direct hit on my street, and it was a big surprise.
A direct hit from a rocket?
From a rocket. Again, unfortunately, we became very desensitized to the reality that an actual rocket could be landing on your street. If rocket sirens are going on. And that reality was shattered for me, for many Israelis, on October 7th. For the people in the communities near Gaza, even worse things have happened. Let's just say that we will never be the same after October 7th.
Yeah. And have you been Have you been serving in the IDF? Like
Absolutely. I've been in the IDF for the past 2 months. I have served for 52 days to be exact. Not to give many detail on what I did, but I did a lot of missions with the families of the kidnappees, especially the Arab sector, and it's just hearing stories over and over about their loved ones and just being with them and meeting them. You're walking to the family of the person who's a masjid in Gaza. Most of them are Arabs, so they were very, very surprised how this could happen and why would this happen. I remember meeting one of the family members, father of a hostage, and he was like talking to me and saying like they kidnapped my son. He was like expressing his feelings. He said kidnapped my son and said he's an IDF soldier. There, he showed me a picture of him in Gaza.
And this is another Muslim Arab.
Another Muslim Arab Bedouin that his guilty charge was being at the wrong time, wrong location, and I would just say I'm very confident in this statement, but the Israeli Arab community was shook up to its core by first of all the attacks that were happening, brutality of the attacks that happened. And second of all, to the victims, Israeli Arab victims that fell alongside our Jewish brothers. But this reaffirms the thought that we, inside of Israel, Arabs and Jews, are considered one in the eyes of the enemy.
And the fact that, I want to get into your personal story in a minute, Yahya, and thank you so much for coming on and sharing this. But just while we're on this right now, the fact that you are Muslim, Arab, and some of the others, it didn't matter. Hamas, because is that what's their mentality? Is it because they consider you a collaborator? You're part of the Israeli system, and therefore you're guilty, as like all the Jewish people are? Or I'm just curious what their thinking is.
The mentality is very black and white. There is a constant demonization of the Israeli identity in Gaza and in the West Bank. So therefore, would they go into Israel? And I've seen the damaged communities near Gaza. When they go into Israel, they don't see human beings. They don't see you as a counterpart. They don't think that when you get hurt, you get hurt, like you feel hurt. Our feelings, our identities, our religions did not matter to the other side. They're very, very fueled by anger, fueled by misinformation. And these organizations are known for they have spoken for years about carrying attacks in the most brutal way against our communities. And on October 7th, unfortunately, we got to see those words being translated into reality.
Unbelievable. Tell us a little about your journey. You grew up in a place called al-Faham, and you somehow became a proud Muslim Zionist, which to me is just so inspiring. And I'm sure to everyone listening to this, tell us a little how this developed.
I grew up in Fahim. Fahim is the third largest Arab city in Israel. It's with a lot of history. Fahim, which in Arabic means the mother of coal, which was the main economic income to the city. Had many names, many name changes. Right now, it's within Israeli proper. It's living there as an Israeli citizen, Israeli Arab. It's mainly Muslims. We had a small Christian community that unfortunately didn't find its place in the city, and I will explain why. The city was a normal city up until the 90s. In the 90s, we had a political party called the Islamic Movement take the municipality elections, and this Islamic movement ruled the city till 2015 officially. The Islamic movement right now was labeled as a terrorist organization in 2015. They had direct ties to Hamas, to terrorist organizations. But to paint a very clear picture, they had free control over my town for a few years, more than a few years. Unofficially, they still have a lot of network in the town. So I grew up in that town around swastikas that were drawn all over the town, around no education about the Holocaust, no education about my Israeli identity, and no education about history. In our history class, Rabbi, history would start from 1948. Prior to 1948.
Who's living there? In other words, all the Arabs that are living in this neighborhood that you said was until 2015 was ruled by this Islamic movement. So, are you affiliating with the Palestinians? You consider yourself Israelis, or is it like a split?
Where I come from is Fahim, and the whole area is called Wadi Ara, has most of the Israeli Arabs living there.
Oh.
Family in the West Bank, and I wasn't an exception. My grandmother was born and raised in the West Bank. She comes from a refugee camp in Iran, from my mother's side, and I have family on the other side as well. Most of them are serving in the PA, in the Palestinian Authority, and some of them are very high ranking in the PA as well.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I grew up with a very, very strong Palestinian identity, so to speak. They told me that I am Israeli, I am Palestinian, and I have nothing to do with Israel. My summer breaks in this refugee camp. I was a part of it. I was a part of the society. I was no exception. And if I could just give a little spoiler of what happened in that path over here, I went to work in Tel Aviv when I was in high school, and I met a Sabbath rabbi. And
how could you not?
He approached me just before Sukkot, and he started speaking with me and telling me how important it is to keep the mitzvot and everything. And I didn't learn Hebrew for the longest. Actually, learned Hebrew at the army only. So I was just shaking my head and agreeing until he finishes. And I expected a very, very negative response because I was about to break the news and tell him I'm not Jewish.
Mm-hmm.
When I did say so, he said a very normal sentence. But it kind of shattered my black and white education that I got about Israel and about Jewish people. He looked me straight in the eyes and he said, "Doesn't matter if you're Jewish. Really matters that you're a good person." It goes without saying, but for somebody who grew up in Fahim, who had this sort of education, same background, suddenly to see the other side accepting you for who you are, no matter what, as long as you're a good person, is a very, very unexpected.
Wow.
It led me to rethink everything that I was taught.
Did he give up on trying to get you to put on the tefillin? Because that's tradition.
I always said they never give up. They always try. They always try. Hebrew. I have thought. I have a thought in Hebrew.
Yeah, and like an exemption.
An exemption. I always say, and they ask why, and then I tell him. We can't tell them. Right. They asked me a lot when I was in the army. So I made my life's mission to go around the world. To be honest, put it more frankly, I was 16, 17. What did I know about the world? I didn't understand anything. I was a teenager. So I thought, this is an Fahim issue. This stuff is only happening in Fahim. So I started doing Israel education in Arabic. I started talking with my Jewish friends. I started learning about the different side of the conflict that I was never taught about. And I realized that this was a worldwide issue. I realized that, learned the word anti-Semitism, but I knew that its meaning very, very long time ago from my upbringing. And I've made it my life's mission to go around, share and where I am today, and how we could make that happen over and over again.
Wow.
The point is very obvious. It's just by being a nice, accepting person to the other side, could change this whole debate.
But so continue to tell us your story. So you were raised much more with a Palestinian identity than with an Israeli one, even though technically you were an Israeli Arab, right? So I can't believe that this one encounter when you were 16 with this Chabad rabbi changed everything. I mean, I give them a lot of credit. My Chabad brothers.
It wasn't that I read him on Tuesday and by Thursday.
Right. So what else got you to? And I'm also curious the reaction of your family, especially joining the IDF.
So I started speaking with my Jewish counterparts, with my friends. Israeli side. And the Arab side is not taught about the Israeli side and version of the events. The Arab side right now, as we're speaking, I am sure that on Al Jazeera right now, they're showing live footage from Gaza, and they have not broadcasted a single footage from the communities around Gaza that were attacked October 7th. That is the image that the Arab world is getting. They're getting only one side of the story. That didn't change since the time I grew up until today. That's why it's important to reach out in Arabic and to give Israel's side in Arabic. So I've made it a very important mission for me to do that worldwide and use social media extensively to make our voices and our version of the story heard. So yeah, it was a gradual change. And it just continued until I joined the IDF.
Wow. And what inspired you to join the IDF? Because I mean, the IDF does not draft Muslim Arabs or Arabs in general. But I mean, there are a lot of Druze that are fighting in the army. But I think your background is kind of rare to join the army, no?
Yes, there are volunteers. We're considered volunteers into the IDF, but we do complete a full military service, just like everybody else. I called them a few times trying to join, and I was turned down twice. By the third time, I've gone through all the tests. It was like a conversion. It was. They really test your patience, and they really want to see if this is what you really want to do, because once you're in, you're in. And I remember it was March 17, 2018. I was in South Africa during some Israel activities on the campuses in Johannesburg, and I got a phone call from the IDF unit. They gave me a 24-hour head notice. They asked me, can you draft tomorrow?
Wow.
I drafted in South Africa, and I flew to Israel, and less than 24 hours later, I was with a great bus haircut and that.
How long ago is this? Was 2019?
2018, March.
Is it? Wow.
I drafted. It was a surprise, let me tell you, because it was a big surprise. You meet a lot of the people that you wouldn't meet outside of the IDFs. I was in the Nassau Infantry Brigade. I thought I'm going to be the only Arab in my platoon. I was with Bedouin and two Druze platoon in the company, and we were all like working towards a common goal. And we had religious Jews, and we had the non-religious Jews, people from down south, people from up north. But if you ask any single one of us at the end of our boot camp, where you're from and who you are, and tell us about yourself, we would tell you our unit and our number in the platoon desk.
Right.
Or you're sleeping the same hours, and eating the same food, and doing the same mission. Suddenly those labels kind of start to trickle away. This Muslim, this Jew, this religious or secular, you are an IDF soldier, and the mission is to defend the state of Israel. So for 8 months, I finished my boot camp, my advanced training, and we went to the Golan Heights, and then we went and served for 8 months on the Gaza border, which was it was the most interesting border that we were at. And for the last 4 months of my service, I joined the infantry school for infantry, the IDF, and I was there towards the end of my service. And after I finished, there was this little thing going on worldwide, this little virus named Corona. The whole world was on shutdown. But I got a phone call. I decided to continue do like my social activism and my mission to educate other Arabs about Israel.
Wow. I want to come back to that, your activism on behalf of Israel to your Arab brothers. I want to hear, though, first, what was the reaction of your family, like your parents, your siblings, when you decided to join the IDF?
Nobody knew that I joined the IDF. I was drafted, as I said, as a surprise to me. And by the time that I drafted the IDF, I was not in contact with my family due to the immense pressure that they were facing in the town. I left the town many years ago, but my family still lives there. Mm-hmm. And there was an ultimatum: either you stop or, the end. So I said I will not stop. This is the path I have chosen for myself, and I will continue doing it. And who gave you this ultimatum, if I can ask you? It was my mother. It was my mother. Very justified. Something happened. The people on the other side, they don't attack you. They try to attack me physically, but they know me and my values, and I will not stop. That's not new to them. So they targeted my family. They chased after my sister out of her workplace and tried to physically attack her just because she was my sister. And my mother gave me that ultimatum because, as we all know, honor and dignity and family respect is a big part of the Arab culture.
Sure.
And putting that honor at risk, because again, Israel activism is not really discussed in the so the need for it was not on my mother's radar, so to speak, or my whole family's radar. It's like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? It's not very clear. So then I was given the ultimatum, and I chose to continue in my path today. After I joined the IDF, I was considered a lone soldier. And part of how you get recognized as a lone soldier is they call up your family. Mm-hmm. Company commander called up my mother and said that I am in the army now, and asked her if she'd in contact with me. And she said that he got the wrong number because her son did not join the army. So he broke the news to her and said, I joined the army, and he would really appreciate it if she comes and joins me on my ticket, on my ceremony, the advanced training. And she did come.
She did. Oh, wow.
With my uncle. There's a video of us celebrating.
So this ultimatum that your mother gave you was, she was just basically forced to do that. She was okay. I guess I'm asking if this is too personal. I'll stop asking.
No, I'm happy to discuss just to give the world a better image. We often ask why there isn't a lot of Arabs speaking for Israel. We've got to understand what the price is. Family is pressured almost to a halt. People were fired from their jobs. Children attacked and almost kicked out of schools. Only because I'm speaking to you and sharing my personal experience. This is a little thing in the Western world. Over here in the Middle East, if you don't go with the flow, it's a death sentence. It's not very a light thing to do. That should not be normalized, and that should not be overlooked.
Were you concerned that it would be dangerous for your family if you? Was that an ethical dilemma that you were in terms of, your value system? You wanted to join the IDF, you wanted to serve, protect Israel, but would that have put your family in harm's way?
I know that it would put me personally in harm's way, and my family as well. I did not expect it to be such a thing, because activism from the other side, the side that's advocating for the Palestinian, is welcome in my community. Palestinian activists, and you advocate and share the narrative that they share, then you are very, very supported and loved.
Sure, I imagine so. Did you feel like it was putting your family in harm's way in any way that by joining the IDF, that this decision to defend the state of Israel would somehow, it could be dangerous, God forbid, for your family?
I didn't imagine that it would get to this. I imagined there will be some resistance, but they've demonized me, the town, in many ways that I've never imagined. Again, having the tolerance to living next to somebody with different opinions than yours should be in the skill book of most people nowadays. But unfortunately, some of that tolerance did not reach a few people in Fasim, and we see it more and more as well, unfortunately, reaching U.S. campuses and countries in the West, that we see different opinions being faced, not with other different opinions, but with fists and punches, which is very unacceptable. Shows only the fragile ideology of the other side. This should not be normalized. This is not a reality that should be accepted in any way. Not to go into details, too many details, but family members were chased after on the streets. People fired from their jobs. They tried to they tried to kick out my cousins, my uncle's kids from school. That's based on the fact that he came to my beret ceremony. That was the thing. It was very unacceptable to celebrate such an event, and to be shown publicly. That is the key point. You could celebrate it in secret, like you're crying, but as soon as you celebrate your Israeli identity in public, it's like committing a crime.
And so your family was personally supportive of this. I mean, you said your mom came to your tekes, to the ceremony at the IDF. You just mentioned your uncle. So they were supportive, but it was more the community. It was more the neighborhood in which you live, the leadership, the Arab leadership there. They were the ones that were coming down on everyone.
Yes, it painted very clearly. The biggest Zionist, bigger than me, in Fasim, was my grandmother, that she was born in a refugee camp. When the whole town was after my blood, she put the biggest Israeli flag on her door and said, when Israel ruled the West Bank, our situation was much better, and I did not. She was speaking about me. She said, I did not do anything wrong by joining the IDF. And the moment I saw my family again, after I joined the IDF, was unfortunately when my grandmother was not feeling well. She was days on her bed in the hospital. And when I walked into the room on uniform, and after some very long months of training, most of my family did not recognize me. Most of them just glanced at me like a stranger and then turned their heads away. Did not know who walked into the room. And that's when she saw me, my grandmother, and she started hugging me and kissing me.
Oh my gosh! Wow, that's amazing. But was that rare for your grandma? This is your mother's mother or your father's mother?
My mother's mother. We had some supportive people. Again, I'm sharing my experience here, so the world understands that it's not that Arabs don't want to advocate for Israel and Arabs don't know that killing civilians is not all right, and etc., etc. It's that we have to understand that by taking this step, individuals could be facing this and even more. Again, I'm an Israeli Arab. I live in a democratic country. This is what's happening to me. You can imagine what goes on if somebody in Jordan or Lebanon did the same step. You would be, as we say, behind the sun within less than 2 hours.
Wow. How You're speaking. I mean, this is such a breath of fresh air. I can't even tell you, and I'm sure if everyone's listening to this, Yahya, but how rare are you? I mean, how many others are there like you? And how do we replicate you? I mean, how do we make
I asked myself the same question. I was on guard duty around 3 a.m. in the morning, and I asked myself the same question. I can't be the only one. I said to myself, I can't be the only one. They started looking for more Arabs that joined the army specifically, and I found many. That did join the army. I found a girl. This is a true story.
Mm-hmm.
They does some really intense Googling and kept the image that I'm about to talk about. I found a Muslim girl with head covering that is an IDF combat soldier.
Whoa.
There's a picture of her on Google with a head covering.
Ew.
And the IDF combat red boots waiting at a bus for her bus. She's from a Muslim town. She chose to go and be a combat soldier. Again, she did it all in secret because supporting Israel is frowned upon. They found people as well from Al-Fahim who have joined the army and did military service. And I help people draft into the army and do national service, not just IDF service. There are more. It's just, again, you could support Israel and love Israel in secret. If you do it publicly.
And any idea, do you have any numbers for us? How many Muslim Arabs, Israeli Arabs are, because there's no draft for Israeli Arabs. And as you said, you were turned down like twice. You kept calling and, it was like when someone tries to convert to Judaism, that's what we rabbis do to them. We put them through that a little. Is any numbers?
We never released. It's again, the IDF reacts to the soldiers as well. So there are some
to
look at. The numbers of IDF soldiers that is never released. It's all classified information, but I have a number for you. I know you want a number, and I have a number. We're looking at 5,000 around 5,000 minority soldiers. And from those 5,000, including the Druze, we're looking at 1,000 Muslim IDF soldiers. Out of these 1,000, we're looking at around 15 to 30 lone soldiers, Muslim Arab lone soldiers in the army.
And you're called a lone soldier, even though your family is in Israel. I have friends who are lone soldiers because they're from New York and they enlist in the IDF. But are all those the Druze, are they considered lone soldiers, or is it just the Israeli Arabs, like those 15 to 30 that you were saying?
Some of the Druze are considered lone soldiers, but the Israeli ones, the Israeli soldiers, technically speaking, the IDF has a term for us. It's called critical lone soldier. So the Olim Sadashim that come to Israel are considered lone soldiers, and we're considered critical lone soldiers.
Wow.
Because we have no families no circles of support. So if you could end up on the street very, very easily. And to be a lone soldier is a label that should tell the person in front of you as a Muslim, if you're a lone soldier as a Muslim, is that you come from a place that usually people don't draft the IDL. So you got no aunt and uncle to go to if you don't have a place to go to on the weekend. So that's why they label us differently.
Critical lone soldier.
Critical lone soldier.
I imagine it's critical because a typical lone soldier, like, I don't know, Jew from South Africa, New York, Paris, right? The family or the community from which they come is proud that they're serving, right? So they may not have physical family in Israel, so they're a lone soldier, but they're not a critical lone soldier, where you have both, you have your family in Israel, but they can't be supportive, or they're choosing not to be supportive. So just the numbers again: 5,000 minority soldiers, I would say, and 1,000 of which you're saying are Muslim. But that includes the Druze, and it does not include Druze.
1,000 Muslims.
1,000 Muslims. And what was this 15 to 30? I'm sorry to keep hawking away with the numbers.
15 to 30 is the number I could get from some IDF official. When I asked, I was looking for Muslim soldiers. So I been reaching out to people. It's the number I got from an IDF official.
Who are not Druze or
some of the none of them are Druze. Some of them are Bedouin. No, yeah. Most critical load soldiers are Muslim or Suredi, surprisingly.
Right, I know that.
Sorry. Yeah,
that's crazy. That's really, really crazy. And tell us a little. Tell us a little about the advocacy. How are you being received in the Arab world? And tell us, to the degree that you can share, who are you talking to? Because obviously you give a lot of comfort to us in the Jewish community, but the people you really need to be preaching to, obviously, are other Muslim Arabs. Who are you talking to, and how are you being received?
We're talking to mainly the Gulf countries, our biggest allies in the Arab world right now. I saw a chart that anti-Israel organizations have prepared of the Zionist Muslims on Twitter. Saudi Arabia has the biggest chart. Twitter accounts of Arabs advocating for Israel or like embracing the Israeli side.
Wow.
We're speaking a lot to the Gulf countries, to Dubai, to Bahrain, to Saudi Arabia. We're using social media. We're using all tools that are available to us. We're reaching out in Arabic mainly, not only translating an English script to Arabic and going and saying that on camera. That obviously doesn't work. We have a Middle Eastern expert. He was viral on Israeli TV for saying the following. He said, "Don't bring sushi where they eat hummus." It's exactly the situation over here. So we are speaking it Middle Eastern with Middle Eastern slang, with Middle Eastern words, with Middle Eastern meanings. We are at war, and we made sure the other side understand this very, very clearly. We will not allow them to forget, because a lot of the media and the Arabic media outlet are trying to get the Arab mind to forget what happened on October 7th, and they're trying to paint this as another conflict that happened between Jews and Arabs. This is not another conflict. This is the war, a real war. Arabs and Jews were affected by it, and this terrorist ideology will put the Middle East on a path to destruction. We don't eject it. This cancerous body that is called Hamas has same ideologies as ISIS, even more. And we have seen what ISIS did to Syria, to the people of Syria, and the Gazans are suffering no less, even since the beginning of the war. I'm watching the situation in Gaza very, very clearly. A few years ago, for those who haven't heard, Gazans took it to the street to make their voices heard against Hamas. Thousands of Gazans took to the street and they were shouting in Arabic, "We want to live." And live they shall. Inshallah, after this war ends, we will wipe Hamas and make sure that peace is restored and there will be no threat coming to Israel from that area anymore. And balance will be restored, and the victims will be avenged. Everybody who's in charge, planning this deadly attack, will be persecuted, and the arm of justice will reach them sooner than later.
Amen. Yahya, I have two more questions. First of all, that's amazing that you're talking to these other Gulf states, because in my opinion, and I'm not a Middle East expert, even though I did study some of this back in graduate school, that Iran is pushing Hamas to do this now to disrupt the whole Abraham Accords, because Israel and Saudi Arabia specifically were getting closer to a peace deal. Are you speaking to Saudi Arabia specifically and its people? Do you see that there could be a peace treaty with Saudi Arabia and Israel?
Peace is inevitable. we have to reach peace agreements. We could talk about this. I was very involved with the Abraham Accords. With the current organization I work for, People Act, where I work as a project manager, we were invited to the UAE before the peace agreements were finalized. We were the first Israelis to enter the UAE to meet the people of the Emirates and to show them
Wow.
Arab side.
Yeah.
The people there were very welcoming to us, feeling did not change. When we say the Arabs in the Arab countries, we're talking about a nation so massive where, just to paint it, to explain it very briefly, no matter how Israel is tiny, it's a tiny, tiny country. We have 85 different dialects of Arabic, just only in Israel. And it gets so severe to the point where I don't understand the other person, even though we're speaking Arabic.
Wow.
So the Arab world is very massive. The Gulf countries, what makes them unique from the other parts of the Arab world, is that they are very anti-extremism, very, very anti-extremism. Hamas and Iran and all those the proxies that are backed by Iran, we don't even need to tell them that these proxies backed up by terrorist organizations. They know it and they reject it. And they know that Israel is not fighting a resistance movement. We're fighting a terrorist movement. And they know that by fact. The same group that is called Al-Houthi in Yemen, is firing rockets currently at Eilat, has fired rockets at Saudi Arabia, and has fired rockets, I kid you not, at Mecca. They have fired rockets at Mecca. We don't need to have a debate with the Gulf countries that these terrorists should be stopped. They not felt it on their skin a few years ago. They know for a fact that Iran is not a friend or an ally in the region.
And is that one of the reasons that you are trying? When I asked you, like, who are you reaching out to? I thought you would spend more time trying to reach out to fellow Palestinians living, but you're spending more time with the Gulf states, you're saying.
We're spending more time with the Gulf states it's a strategy that we follow because I am labeled as an Israeli Arab. I'm labeled. There's the word Israel in it. But he's from the UAE speaking for Israel, and that's less of a label. Not to go into many details, but we have many, many allies in many, many countries. And Twitter has turned to be the forefront of the battlefield over the opinion war. We have seen many Arabs, non-activists. We're talking about your average Joe in Egypt that has woken up on October 7th, just like us in Israel, and saw the picture that Hamas has committed. And the Arab world knows how Israel will react. Hamas knew how Israel will react. And they have just been in a state of shock. The amount of people that were shocked on October 7th is not limited to the people of Israel. The whole Middle East was shocked. And the Arabs knew that there will be a reaction. They know that Hamas is going to lead to the destruction of Gaza, and the responsibilities of Hamas. So you saw, if you go on Twitter, October 7th, you go on Twitter, there's like a spaces, like a phone, I don't know, a phone Zoom kind of thing, a conversation space. And they were all talking against Hamas. People that were saying, and I quote you, I just went into one of the spaces and I had listened. People were saying, like, we're not the biggest Zionists, we're not the biggest supporters of Israel, but seeing people shot and killed in their own house, this goes against Islam and burning and raping and
How come we haven't seen, we could so use this. I can't even tell you, Yahya, how much we could use Arabs coming out and saying, like someone from Saudi Arabia or someone from Bahrain, or like, how come we don't hear that? Are they afraid to speak up too?
They are not afraid. Fear is not a thing that is considered first with people that voice their opinions from the Arab world. It is not concern. It is not fear. It's only the doubt of how they would be accepted how they would be accepted. Remember my conversation with the rabbi? I was how I would be accepted. That is the only thing that goes on in every Arab's mind. And with Arabs,
even Sunni states, even Sunni Arab states like Bahrain and United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia, you're saying that people there are reticent. They are also reluctant to condemn Hamas publicly and to show support and sympathy for Israel for being attacked. I mean, maybe
it's less there. I'm talking about Jordan and Egypt are immediate neighbors. I just want to finish on this point. I hear a lot of generalization of the situation in Gaza. I hear that many people are very against differentiating between the terrorist and the civilian. And I just want to say here to the world that not differentiating between the civilians of Gaza and the terrorists in Gaza is exactly what Hamas wants. Hamas wants us to demonize the people of Gaza. Hamas wants us to harm the people of Gaza, and we only work according to our values. Now, our values did not change. On October 7th, our values are still the same. And I hope that people take this point with them from now on.
Listen, we want to believe that. I want to believe that. As a rabbi and as a Jew, I want to believe, and I have. But the problem is the data that keeps coming out, or these, polls that's showing like something like 75% of Gazans are supporting Hamas. Very hard to tell what the heck's going on, because I'm sure a lot of them have been brainwashed since they were children to hate Jews and to support Hamas, or maybe they're afraid to speak out. I don't know. There's all these possibilities. Also, what unfortunately happened, as we know, I don't know what the numbers were, but we know that it wasn't just Hamas that came in and attacked. There were civilians that came in and attacked, and the footage that we see when some of the hostages were paraded around, some in the nude, that it wasn't just Hamas cheering on, it was others. Now, how many? There's still over 2 million, Gazans. I mean, I don't have any real figures, so it's hard to tell. We're sitting here, and I will tell you, we have a concept in Judaism, and I think Jews do this in general, to be malamed zechut, to give people the benefit of the doubt, and to always bend over a little to find that the goodness that lies within all people. We believe in that. So we're desperately looking for that. And we want to continue to make that distinction. It's just sometimes you hear other things, and you see stuff.
Look no further than our street in Israel, the Ministry of Defense and the IDF. IDF has struck tens of thousands of targets in Gaza and has carried tens of assassinations of Hamas leaders.
Mm-hmm.
Not to go into the details, we have people on the ground risking their life during an active war zone, giving us intel on how to achieve our mission. We should not be blind to those people. If those people were not recognized, I'm not saying send them to the UN, but they want a plane and send them to the UN. I have known people from Gaza. I have friends in Gaza for the 13 years. I was talking to my friend who is only and his only important thing in his life is his family. This is a normal Gaza that goes to work, goes home. Now, he was not one of the people that participated on October 7th. He's not one of the people that celebrated. He's not the people that is. Hamas wants us, as Israel, to demonize those people. And we do not work.
How dare you?
Hamas does not decide for us. We're friends.
Yes,
Not decide for you and me if we're walking on the street, for you to take the other side of the street. On October 6th, you don't change side of the street, but on October 7th, you change side. No, terrorism does not decide for us anything.
Beautiful.
And it's
values
are still the same.
I appreciate that, and I appreciate you restoring some of our faith in some of the people in Gaza. We don't know the numbers, but we We have to be grateful to those who are helping the IDF. And yeah, I really appreciate you clarifying that. I want to ask you another question. God, I would love, Yahya, for you to be able to make inroads in Israel itself. What would it take for you to be able to do that? Like, is that safe for you? Is it easy for you to talk to, people in Saudi Arabia and in the Emirates, in those countries? By the way, that's incredibly important, because even if the governments of those countries are predisposed towards positively, favorably towards Israel, the people, we always need the people having that connection. So what you're doing is God's work, as far as I'm concerned. Just wondering how you could, how we can help you magnify your impact in Israel itself amongst your Arab brothers, our cousins.
We in DiploAct have many programs to enlist and integrate the Israeli Arab society into the bigger Israeli society, including education, job opportunities, and Zionism. Zionism is a very big part of our Israeli identity. And that's what we do. We work with many youth initiatives to educate our Arab brothers about the history that is before 1948, and about the Jewish traditions and the holidays and stuff. And suddenly the name of the Jew will have a face, will have a name, will be on the friends list, will be on in your contacts number. And this is how we achieve peace. We have to tolerate one another. We have to live with one another at the end of the day. Obviously, the Arabs are not going anywhere. Obviously, the Jews are not going to go anywhere. This is the Middle East. And I was looking at a meme, actually, just to finish on this light point. I was looking at a meme of the previous chief of police, and obviously he's with the Yemenite backgrounds. So he looks just like me. Have Yemenite backgrounds, and they were putting the picture of the spokesperson for one of the terrorist groups, and obviously not as a comparison. And I was thinking to myself, we're both from the same region. We're both from the same area. This Jew and Arab and Muslim and stuff, it doesn't apply. We're all from the same region, and we are more connected than I can explain than my English.
No, that's amazing, and that's I'm tempted to just end this discussion on that, because it's such a positive note, and I'm hoping that we can find our common humanity, and not only a common humanity, but our common religion. I mean, there's so many similarities theologically, spiritually, between Muslims and Jews, between Islam and Judaism. It's such a shame. I've been telling this to so many people. It's such a shame about, how we could be working together. And I'm so hopeful and inspired by the Abraham Accords that they continue to build. I have a very specific question, and it was triggered a little by when you said that you have family in the West Bank, what we call Yehuda v'Shomron. Do you think, what do you think is the future? Who do you think should be running and ruling the Gaza Strip after this war is over soon? After you, together with the rest of the IDF, are successful in destroying Hamas and taking Hamas out of commission, how do we make sure, who should be in charge that, in your opinion, can make sure that another October 7th can never happen again? And not only that, but that somehow a new generation of Arab people can be raised without hating Jews?
Well, it's talking about the day after. It's a conversation that we're having right now. The who is less important. The name is less important. It's the economy that we're about to build, that is about to develop in Gaza. It's the future that they can build for themselves, maybe with our help. And it's the education that will spur out after this war. He would lead this change is less important, because if one of those three pillars would fall, we would be ending the same cycle. We would end in the same cycle again. So that's three things that we should be focusing on. The name and the person who should be ruling is different.
But who, in your opinion, can bring about those three things? Who, in your opinion, can revive an economy, change radically? It has to be a radical change of the education, so that the next group that ends up governing Gaza, they're not Hamas, it's some other group, but it could be with a similar ideology of hate.
As Israel, we need to make sure and keep a close eye on the power play that's happening in Gaza after the war.
Do you think Israel should control it then?
That's not just. It's not the word control. Maybe doesn't do it justice. It's we need to make sure that for the sake of the Gazans. Again, I say Gazans have been living in terrible conditions since Hamas took over. For the sake of the Gazans, because those terrorist organizations create an environment of poverty. That's how they flourish. So for the sake of the Gazans, we need to make sure that they have a good representation, leadership who's actually worried about the Gazan. And we learned from what happened in 2005, 2006, and we watched the steps of how things started going downhill. We need to make sure that they don't happen again. The power in Gaza got shifted to few main characters. Those main characters stopped caring about the people. The poverty line started drastically going up. Hamas gained a lot of popularity. Fatah was dismantled. They couldn't decide on a political representative, etc., etc.
Do you think that Fatah could be trusted to govern?
No, obviously, Fatah is not to be trusted at all. Fatah came out with many statements that instead of even, we discussed how the Arab world distancing themselves from Hamas. Fatah's leadership has actually closed themselves with Hamas. They said one of their, don't remember who it is, he said Hamas is part of the whole Palestinian image or something along those lines. This is a saying from a person that doesn't give any care to the Palestinian future. This is somebody who doesn't care how the average Palestinian work, what they eat, where they sleep, how is they're doing financially and emotionally. No, these are people that should not be trusted. I think we live in a very interesting corner of the earth. Everything could flip in a matter of seconds, as we saw, fortunately. And I think advancing to such advanced questions to who should or what will is a bit disconnected from reality. We're talking about a day-by-day survival.
Yeah.
In some place.
No, I hear you. Tell us the name of the organization. I know you mentioned it a few times. My apologies. What's the name of the group you're working with?
I work for an organization called DiploAct. DiploAct is all about elevating.
So DIPLO? DiploAct.
Yes.
Okay.
We work on elevating Israel's image. We do believe that also education in Arabic is very, very important. And we have many projects, and not just advocating outside of Israel. We do a lot of work inside of Israel as well, because what we broadcast to the world is our internal image in Israel. So we empower Israel's minorities, we integrate them, we bring them closer and closer to their Israeli identity, which is very, very important. I wish we had a DiploAct branch in Al-Fahim. It would have changed the lives of many, many people.
Well, I want to get a little involved, if I can be of any help, with propping up DiploAct, because I think the work you're doing is incredibly, incredibly important. I have tremendous, tremendous respect, Yahya, for what you've done for the Jewish people, for the state of Israel. And I know you're not just doing it for the Jewish people, you're doing it for your Muslim brothers and your Arab brothers and sisters. And I commend you for that, because that's the future. No one's going anywhere. We are here, and either we're going to figure out a way to make this thing work together, or it's just not going to happen. And
we should. Well,
your optimism is very, very inspiring, I have to say. And I give you my yarmulke. My kippah is off to you. I think it's incredible. Yeah, I wish you and your family just the best. Hashem should bless you. God should bless you with continued success, with good health, with safety. You should continue to fight on behalf of the IDF with good health and just blessings for you and your family. What you're doing is just I don't even have words. Like what a spiritually high level you are on as far as our Torah and Judaism is concerned, to be able to help the way you're helping, and not just getting us out of this, terrible war that we're in now, and helping us be successful against Hamas. That's one, but doing something broader down the road to create the kind of peace that could really be everlasting. Thank you so much for coming on, and I hope that we can continue our association. This was a great honor for us.
Allah, thank you, Rabbi. Thank you for having me. Thank you.